amano echona, amano echona, amano echona, yantu ya Shiwa, amano echona, amano echona.
History is a narration of the events that have happened among mankind, including an account of the rise and fall of nations. The history of Zambia has been documented at many stages from the pre-colonial era to the attainment of independence and thereafter. Muchinga is one of Zambia's 10 provinces. It was part of Northern Province until 2011 when it was created. Like all provinces in Zambia, the country's history cannot be told without the mention of Muchinga province. From a historical perspective, Muchinga province has a rich history of early white settlers as well as freedom fighters who contributed to Zambia's independence, such as Simon Mwansaka and Kenneth Kaunda, among others. Shiwa district, which is located in the northeast part of the country in Muchinga province, is one of the districts that holds one of the country's historical and tourism sites called the Shiwa House. The imposing Shiwa House was built in the 1920s by an English soldier, Sir George Gould Brown, who settled in Shiwa after the First World War and established his estate right here. As impressive as the Shiwa House is, it is located in the heart of the outskirts of the relatively rural district of Shiwa, approximately 16 kilometers from the district administrative center. The locally famous Shiwa House, which has a total number of 92 rooms, is said to have amassed about 30 million clay-baked bricks at its partial completion in the late 1930s. Charles Harvey, one of the grandsons of the late Gould Brown, narrates the history behind Shiwa House, which recently turned 100 years old, making it one of the oldest buildings in the country still standing.
Looking behind me now, I think you can see the Shiwa House. This was built by my grandfather. He started in the 1920s, after the First World War. When he arrived here, he had seen the land before the First World War, because he walked from here to Dar es Salaam. He walked on foot to Dar es Salaam to go and join his regiment in the First World War. And he had to come here and he had to start right from the beginning. He had to train the oxen. He had to teach the people how to make bricks, train the oxen to be able to pull the bricks from the kilns to here, to open the land up, to go through all of that thing. And it is a long, long way. The house here behind us has over 30 million bricks. Each one of those were made on the farm. They were made by the people that he taught here. And the tiles on the roof, there's not iron sheets on the roof. There's clay tiles were made here. Every single clay tile. All the wood had to be cut by hand. There were no engines to cut no Zesco to cut the timber for the roofs. So I think the main thing that the house stands for really is that it shows you that with determination and very limited skills that we're able to adapt and to make things in this country.
With this family holding literature, specifically history, economics, and nature in high regard, the Shiwa House also encompasses a book library in one of the 92 rooms with an estimated 100,000 books.
I think we all forget now, because we've got the internet and everything like that in those days there was no internet, and what we did is we had to you had to get your information from books and from libraries. So my grandfather and my mother were great readers, and a lot of these are to do with history.
The Shiwa House was once home of Sir George Gould Brown's close friend, the late President Kenneth Kaunda, during his 6 months house arrest in the 1950s, while strategizing a non-violence coordinated approach towards independence. It was during this period that the first ever Zambian constitution was planned under this tree and then drafted in this living room, which is still intact.
When the colonial government, my grandfather was very instrumental in getting independence for Zambia. And he believed that we should get independence without violence. And he differed from Kaunda, who said, oh no, it may end up being a violent struggle. And then eventually they talked with President Kaunda and said, no, there must be no violent struggle. And then he persuaded the colonial government to release Dr. Kaunda into his custody here. And they sat in this very room and they discussed the constitution of Zambia. So it was a very important part of that. And Kaunda was under house arrest in this house for over 6 months. So that was how we managed to, I believe, to have a peaceful transition from colonial thing to our independent state. And I believe that if we didn't have Dr. Kaunda and my grandfather, it would have turned violent. A lot of the under people of Kaunda and my grandfather believed that they should have violence.
This special room in this magnificent house has had 3 Zambian presidents sitting on these sofas during their historical visits to the Shiwa house.
This one is where the President Manawasa sat.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Mr. Scott also sat here, Dr. Scott.
Okay.
Yeah.
This table in the dining area that was made in 1920 has serious rules of zero tolerance to political discussions which are still applicable to death.
The table was built in the room. You can't get the table out of the room here. So the table was built in 1930. And it's still here now. And the rules of the dining room here, when you're eating, you're not allowed to discuss religion, politics, or money. If you discuss any of those, I will ask you to leave the table and go and eat outside. Because I believe that if you discuss those, you can't eat properly and civilly. You don't talk money at the table. And we're very old-fashioned here in this family. We never talk money in front of the ladies. It's only the men that discuss the money.
Meanwhile, religion has also been an important aspect of the Browns and Harvey families that during the construction of this house, Sir Go Brown decided to add an extension of the house with a chapel for worship among family members, workers and visitors from different denominations.
This is a chapel which we allow any Christian religion to worship in. We have had other faiths in here. I believe it's a house of God, and I don't really believe that, as long as you believe in God, you're welcome to worship. This is the thing here for my grandmother, a plaque for my grandmother, and the plaque for my mother and father. My mother and father were murdered, not here, but in Chisampa when the people were caught. Normally on a Sunday we have 3 different denominations use the chapel. Yeah, we were brought up Anglican, which is now, but the Catholics use it, and then the Seventh Day also use it. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the plaque here is of a soldier, Peter Kavanga, who went to the First World War with my grandfather. He served for the British Army and then was killed in France.
Marjorie Mulenga, a resident of Shiwangandu, stressed on the joy of having a chapel at the estate where she grew up.
Shiwangandu ilia farm.
I was raised at the Shiwa estate, and my father, who is over there, worked at the post office at the same estate. The Shiwa house is very important to many people, including us from Shiwangandu.
So, ine ilia Shiwa house ni ngandaimo iyo nasangamo kuchila kwena into ya ibelako.
We are also grateful to have the Shiwa farms because it has employed a lot of youths from Shiwangandu.
Elio kwena bago Browni bale fanishi ndi mwaiche lelo banyina kwa uyu na bakashuya alipo chaozi bena nalibasanga ndesambire patimba ni shibali palya iliye nganda yaliba very important pantu moneni abantu abengi balefumo kutali kwisa mukumona fe iliya ine nganda.
That house has a chapel where we are allowed to worship from, despite us coming from different denominations, and at times the Harveys themselves do not even attend the services, but they allow us to worship from there without any problems.
umwinetesa kono kwisabati mwaya pepa mwabwela.
About 30 kilometers away from the Shiwa house lies Kapisha Hot Springs and Resort, which is run by Mark Harvey, another grandson to the late Go Brown, who emphasized on the significance of preserving rich history such as the Shiwa estate for tourism purposes.
A lot of people knew about Go Brown and what he did for us, for Zambia. And I think it's an important part of our heritage, is the Shiwa house, very important. You've got lots of places in Zambia. Lundazi Castle. You have all these beautiful waterfalls that we haven't developed. Tourism it's a problem with Zambia at the moment, tourism. You've seen the state of the T2, it's deplorable. It takes you now 13 hours to get to Lusaka. That's not tourism. We have all the rock paintings, we even have rock paintings here. There is a whole, that word potential of tourism. Why is it that Kenya can do it? Tanzania does it, South Africa does it. Why do we always lag behind? We have this enormous potential of being not only the grain basket of Africa. The one thing that every tourist says about Zambia are the people. The people of Zambia make this. That's what we should be exploiting, and bringing people in. You know, tourism seems to be, the thought is that it's for foreigners. We have local tourism here. You have businessmen traveling. When you go out traveling to do stories, you stay at a hotel. You're a tourist. That is business. And I think we must try and encourage our local businessmen to invest in tourism.
Muchinga province has potential of being the country's agricultural hub due to the favorable climatic conditions for farming activities. The region also bears a lot of potential in tourism and mining. 100 years down the line, this estate, which encompasses a farm and a game ranch, has continued to remain important to the local people that are benefiting from the employment opportunities on the farm, with the house itself being managed by 7 house helpers on contractual basis.
That house has brought a lot of benefits to the surrounding community. The tourists that come here sometimes help us in many ways, and they also come here to hunt animals, and we benefit from that. Since I started working here, I have benefited a lot, and I am thankful.
Ngana kwate mpia ndeshitefika pafya nkumba ndeyamuteke ndepere nkumba nenkukondateka so apa ni ninja kupanta kuchira fyonari
kwera ndetto telefenati kwene fine kwena tubomba titwakonkanya pfe fine.
We work very well here, and I am happy to be employed here because jobs are hard to find here in Shwangandu. The Shiwa estate is the only main source of employment for many youth in this area.
Abasungu abengi kuno takwa amakampani abantu tingabomba kwa engi so ine company fikwe fe abantu abengi babutukirako.
As a source of many agricultural supplies on the Shwangandu market and other surrounding areas, the Harvey Farms have embarked on a coffee growing project that is earmarked to employ approximately 800 women in the area in a bid to empower them.
Now we started a coffee project. And that coffee project, when it's finished, will be employing over 800 women. Because we find the women are better at picking the coffee and harvesting coffee than other women. So we should be able to hopefully empower 800 people. And then from that coffee there, 2 hectares of that coffee will be specifically for the women. They will grow it for themselves, and we will help them grow it. So that that is how we will empower them. And hopefully, once they've got the training of that for 2 or 3 years, they can then go and start their own coffee plantations.
Okay, as for this plantation at Sios, we are getting employed here because a lot of youths are looking for employment, and they are told to come here because this coffee has a lot of work. Yes. So, as in what I've said in form of mulch, we need, as on a plant, we need to put glass. Yes. As when it is watered, it will need that shade for the water to stay on that plant. Yes, because it takes for about 4 days for it to be watered again using sprinklers, because we are moving in stages in block 1, block 2. Yes.
This historical building adds to the profile of Shiwangandu district, which was born out of Muchinga Provincial Center Chinsali in 2011.
Shiwangandu Estate is a very, very important historical heritage site because of its key role it played during our struggle for independence. It provided a good accommodation for our key heroes, such as Go Brown, who was the founder of the site, Simon Mwasaka, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, who was the first Republican president of Zambia, and many others. It is also a tourism site which attracts a huge number of our local and international tourists into our district, whereby our local authority, which is Shiwangandu Town Council, has an opportunity to generate revenue. We are encouraging our local people to appreciate the importance of and the value of Shiwangandu estate by avoiding bad practices such as killing animals from the farm and cutting trees anyhow. Also a source of employment to our local people, more especially youth and women.
It is a gratifying fact that such a piece of rich history tracing back from the 1920s is still significant to the country's heritage in various aspects of development. The Shiwa House is indeed one of the great wonders of Zambia's history.
Chichanda nobe, iwi pale chona. Chichanda nobe, iwi pale chona. Ili ule bomba.